So this live stream isn't for anybody other than myself. What's happened is with the positive changes I've been trying to make, I've had to hold my breath to a lot of the injustice in my life, to a lot of the maliciousness, my mental health, and in addition to the mental health, the collective psychosis put upon me. In essence, I'm experiencing life, being alive, by lying to myself about how bad things are. And the reason I'm doing that, knowing that, consciously doing that, is because I find myself in a difficult place. And to get myself out of that difficult place, I've put together an action plan. There's no way that I'm going to just fall out of this difficult place anymore. I'm too far in. And with the positive changes I've tried to make, the only way out that I can see is to hold my breath and let the positivity take control, the positive changes to take control, whilst I'm still experiencing levels of life that I can't live. I'm sure other human beings are stronger than me, more capable, more resilient. I'm not. That's just me. So I'm having to lie to myself, and I'm watching all of these things constantly happening. And in addition to that, I'm managing the more introspective elements of my mental health, in which is my personal experience to life. So in other words, I've got levels of suffering happening to me on the outside. So we're talking about money, we're talking about survival, we're talking about shelter, and all of those elements, everything on the outside. And that I can't deal with. I don't deal well with my back up against the wall when it comes to money. I've learned how to be impeccable with money, but unfortunately my life keeps tripping me up, so I'm unable. So in addition to my mental health, physical health, the collective psychosis fucking me on the outside, I also have to deal with my mental health on an internal level. And we're talking about emotions, we're talking about psychosis and all of that stuff. And really and truly, there's no way I can lie to myself about it, because it's in my face, it hurts. I'm not able to walk, I'm not able to do simple things, and you can't get away from that. And in addition to all of those external problems, the internal problems really relate to the amount of energy and strength and life force I have to deal with all of those external problems and my life as a whole. And when it comes to the crunch, when those external problems just get too much for me and I crumble, it highlights how painful, how hard all of those internal problems are in that place. So in other words, if my life wasn't so challenging, those internal problems, you could justify as just an experience of life. But when you break as a result of the external, and then you find out you've got the internal problems at the same time, and you let go of the external because it's just so ridiculous, and all you do is come back to the present moment, and in that present moment all you have are those internal problems as a result of all the problems on the outside. So in other words, the internal problems pick up where the external problems left off. And at that point, the internal problems are unlivable. If my life was a bit easier on the outside, and I came to the place of, oh, I've got internal problems, let's deal with them, I probably could. I have done in the past so many times. But because those internal problems are picking up where the outside problems left off, and the outside problems are just, well, there's no way to describe them. It really paints a picture of life that can't be lived. Picture of life that as a result of that journey to that place of letting go of all the outside world, as a result of its insanity, and you come back to yourself and you're presented with those problems, it's just too much. I'm there and I'm experiencing my life the worst it's ever been. So I decide to go for a walk, and I go for a walk and I'm being flooded, forced to look at the world as if I'm on a summer holiday, as if the past 13 years of my life haven't happened, and it's, oh, what should we do with the day to day? Where should we go? What fun activities should we do? And the polarization, the juxtaposition from the truth of where I am in this world as a human being to see my life and everything I have to digest on the outside, and to have that as the finality, those internal problems, there's just no way. I can't live it. I'm not a happy bunny. I'm being force-fed happy bunny storylines. I'm being force-fed sex. I am so far away from sex. I've never been further away from it, and I'm a virgin. Right now I feel sickened by humans. And then you want me to look at women, get past the sickness that is the consciousness of the body as a result of our collective past, as a result of the outside again. You're welcome to leave it there or go into further elements of truth if you can be honest with yourself and admit we're a slave species. We have overlords and they're not looking after us. They're demanding of us, and they are making us live in a way that the sickness of their minds and hearts and souls is incomprehensible. That's life, that's the world, that's planet Earth. I'm sure a lot of people can't admit to that. It's really hard to admit you're a slave. It's really hard to admit every ounce of energy you give every single day and have done your whole life, blood, sweat and tears, is worthless. And not only is it worthless, but it's actually beyond worthless. It's unbelievably painful just to admit, let alone look at all the energy you've given and look at the physical, mental, emotional, energetic, spiritual abuse that comes to us. And be okay saying to yourself, really knowing it, oh yeah, we're a slave species. We have overlords. I don't have a life. Everything in my life is meaningless, it's worthless. However much you have paid off your debts for whatever it is that you own on the outside, you also don't own it. If you look at the situation in truth, for humanity in terms of survival. In other words, we all need to survive, we all need to hunt, we all need to source food, we all need to source water, shelter, heat, simplistic things. The lives we live now are very much complicated, but they all have those elements there at their core. That's what we're doing it for. That's what survival's about. And when you realize and look at that picture with any element of detail, you realize the dynamics that constitute that as life, that need for survival through the means that are presented to us is impossible. In other words, we are alive, and if we're really honest with ourselves, we know we have no control, no power over our own survival. You could say it's a bit like nature. You have no control over nature, do you? But you learn to live and form and bond a relationship with nature. So you're at one with nature. You're at peace with nature as a representative of God. Can you do the same thing with overlords that don't have our best interest at heart? I can't. And really and truly, that's where I find myself now, in that place. Survival on the outside has just kicked me in the nuts. I've lost count how many times this has happened, time after time after time after time, in recent succession of each other. In other words, if nature ever did that to you, you'd think, well, yeah, it's just my time to die. Obviously, life is saying I shouldn't be alive, and well, that's it, and you find peace. Unfortunately, I can't quite do the same when it's another being doing that to me. Another soul doing that to me. And in this place I realise that outside the possessions, it's everything in terms of survival in this world. When you haven't got any ounce of control over it, it's like you're giving your entire life, every bit of energy you have for that pursuit in terms of survival. And it's an insane pursuit. I'm in a very difficult place right now, because the picture I just painted, you want to tell me you have confidence there to go out in this world, in any area of life? You're lying to yourself. If we're truthful, we're like a scared child alone in this world. alone to all the possibilities of all the bad things that can happen to us by nature, and whatever amplification the scenario that is this world currently put in front of us. And I have given as much energy as I can, being as truthful as possible, and you get to a point where you're just like, I can't do this anymore. This just doesn't make sense anymore to keep a stiff upper lip and just carry on. Ignoring all the insane pain, all the injustice and maliciousness. And when you're a scared child and that's the scenario, and you realise you might as well, you realise that you have less power than the child, because the child embodies and imbues innocence, and other human beings at least respect that element. And if a child is getting abused, not sexually, but if they're experiencing injustice as a result of another soul, you'd expect human beings to stand up for them. But when you look like this and you're an adult and you're in that place, you begin to start to see what some people have gone through in this life. The days before having freedom over our sexuality, for instance, the days when it was almost viewed as okay and good to put people down who don't partake in the same sexual mentality. So in other words, if you're gay or lesbian or trans or whatever, the abuse that you may have gone through once upon a time, it puts you in a place where you're alone to the one of your own. The world has a problem with you. And not only does it have a problem with you, but it's okay to give you abuse and highlight that you have a problem when you don't, and make your life a misery and a living hell. The same with racism. And in that place, you don't have confidence. In that place, you don't want to be a part of this world. You almost accept, at least this is my experience and my situation, and finding comparables. You almost accept that's it, you know. You see clearly the level of power and control and life you actually have, instead of the life that's force-fed down our necks from the moment we're born and even before to what life could be on planet Earth with all of the technology and abundance we supposedly have. And you're scared. You don't present yourself to the world in a way that you would otherwise like. You hide your truth because you don't want to be hurt. You listen and take orders and follow. How many people have experienced racism and injustices as a result of their own true nature, their own skin colour, their own sex, have been in a position where they fear for their safety so much and the abuse that might come their way that they're willing to almost abuse I don't want to say their own kind, but their own race or their own sexual orientation, and they're willing to abuse other people. It would be a lie. It would be playing along with a lie, just so you don't have to experience that suffering yourself at the hands through a very real fear of the world that you live in. You act in a way that would bring you immeasurable pain if it was to be received by you. And you're aware of that contradiction. And all of that life force, all of that vitality this world says is there for our taking, go and grab it. Sort of disappears and you become very weak, very true, empty inside as a result of the present moment, as a result of who you are, as a result of the world, as a result of the future. And those are the times when suicide occurs, isn't it? What's the point of life when that's the situation? But that's where I find myself, and I know suicide isn't an option. Neither is this life. And in truth, this happened to me again, and in truth, I'm not getting myself out of it this time. I'm not finding a way forward because like I just said, there is no future. The future just looks like the present. The present just looks like the past. So in that place of vulnerability, what do you do for life? You're alone. You are who you are. You're more aware of the world than most people. Most people are lying to themselves about their lives and about the world because they've been lucky. And if you're unlucky, the pain is so severe. And we know it deep down. We continue to lie to ourselves. So we don't have to experience that pain ourselves. I'm disconnected from humanity. Right now, the hatred I have for humanity because you're not going to be happy about your life if that's your life, and you're not going to be all warm and happy about other human beings when if all of them behave the same. If you're honest, you hate humans. There's no reason to love them. And I am not able to breathe. I need a way out. It happening, and again, in all honesty, I can only see it getting worse. I have. And I think that's all I'm going to get from this live stream, is to stay to the present moment. Just sit in that, maybe for the next hour, 2 days a week, 2 weeks, a month. Until I figure out what I'm going to do, given the current